Y'all, I need everybody to stop what you're doing right now and sit down because I have been summoned, okay? The people have been in my DMs on Instagram and they have been demanding that I respond to something. And normally I like to sit with this a little bit before I make a video because I don't want to be reactionary. I like to get all the facts and make sure that when I open my mouth, I actually have something to say. And I sat with it and baby, okay, there is plenty that I got to get off my chest, all right? What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Indescribable, aka Geraldine Lake, and today we are going to talk about what happened when Austin Metcalf's father, Jeff Metcalf, got on a live stream the other day after Karmelo Anthony verdict was decided, and he just went ahead and showed us exactly who he was. So, buckle up, okay? Here's the setup. The verdict came out and the gag order has been lifted that was in place during the trial. So apparently Jeff Metcalf, got the verdict that he wanted. He was able to watch the person that killed his son be convicted to or sentenced to 35 years in prison. And I'm not saying that that's something to celebrate, but okay. All right. You got what you wanted. Okay. But then he goes on a 3-hour live stream, basically a racist rant. Okay. You could not publicly speak about this during the trial. And I get it that people were dragging your son's name and your family through the dirt. So the first thing you do when a gag order is lifted is get on the internet and spew racist hate. Got it. Now, I do believe that he had every right to be upset. At the end of the day, he lost his son, but he never had the right to be racist.
I got a new name for Mello, okay? Because he was such this little boy I was trying to portray. How about Watermelon Felon? How's that one strike you?
Watermelon Felon? Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. Had a little ring to it, my bad, but I'm childish. A grown man, okay, the father of his now deceased son, gets on the internet to go on this public live stream to call a teenager a watermelon felon. Now, here is the thing that took this from bad to unforgivable for me, because I understand that people in grief, they say things out of anger and they have been given grace before. And so I think that people were trying to chalk this up to this man was just hurting, but I feel like he really told on himself. Check this out.
Let me make something racist up so y'all can go viral.
He literally said out loud with his mouth on a recorded live stream, "Let me make something racist so y'all can go viral." Sir, sir, you announced it, okay? That was not a Freudian slip. It wasn't you needing a moment to process your grief. You said it out loud and then you narrated your own racism like you were doing a cooking tutorial, like sprinkling a little racism like Salt Bae, okay? Because who even does that? That is not a grieving father, y'all. That is not somebody who's having a bad night. That is a man revealing a belief system that was already there, already formed and ready to go before he had a permission slip. Okay? Then he was like, well, you people hang your hat on the dumbest stuff I've ever seen. You people. I just need everybody to sit with those words for a second, because in the year of our Lord, 2026, that phrase directed at black people is blatant racism. It's not an accident, and we all know that to be fact. That is a man who sees us as a collective problem to be addressed, not as individuals, not as humans, not as people with legitimate response to racial slur being used on a public platform. But y'all heard it, okay? Y'all heard it. Now, I have to be fair here because I believe in being fair, even when it's inconvenient. And here is where I have to give credit where it's due. Earlier in this entire journey, before the trial, before the verdict, Jeff Metcalf actually pushed back on the white supremacist group who tried to use Austin's death for their agenda. The Protect White Americans crowd showed up to a protest, and Jeff was like, I'm paraphrasing here, they didn't give a you-know-what about his family, and they were race baiters who wanted to use his son's name for their own agenda. He called them out, he told them to remove his son's photos from their materials, and he shut it down. I respected that, okay? But how? How do you go from that to watermelon felon in 12 months? How do you go from don't use my son's death to create racial division to I'm going to personally create racial division with my own words on the platform the day after the verdict? Now, that is hypocrisy that I can't get past, and that reveals the problem that was never the white supremacists using Austin's name. It was that he wanted to do it himself. Okay? Apparently, he was saving all his hate. Anyway, and look, I know that that is a hard thing to hear. I know somebody in these comments right now is revving up to tell me that I'm being too harsh on a grieving father, but I need you to understand something. Grief does not make racism okay, excuse racial slurs, or turn you people into a term of endearment. You don't get a pass on racism because you're in pain, okay? Here's the part of the conversation that I really need y'all to stay with me for, because this is where people start getting really uncomfortable. And I don't care, okay? Uncomfortable is where the truth lives, and two things can be true at the same time. Austin Metcalf's family is grieving a devastating loss. That's true. Jeff Metcalf got on a live stream and used a racial slur to describe a black teenager. That's true. Okay? You don't get to demand that black people mourn your son the way you want them to and then call his killer a watermelon felon on the internet. You don't get to ask for compassion and then show us exactly how little you have for us. That's not a trade that anybody agreed to. And stop asking black people to choose between acknowledging racism and having compassion for a victim's family. Those things are not mutually exclusive. I can feel whatever I feel for Austin and still call out his racist daddy. Okay, that's not a contradiction. That's me being a human. The people who want you to choose are the same people who benefit from you staying silent. Because if you stay silent about the racism, then the racism wins, point blank. That was racist. It was wrong. And it don't matter how much pain he's in. He can go to hell. Now, let me tell you what has been making my eye twitch, okay, since this live stream dropped. The silence from all these media outlets that had plenty to say about every other angle of this case. When Karmelo Anthony supporters said anything remotely controversial, it was a news story. When protests happened outside the courthouse, it was a news story. When anything happened that could be framed as black people being aggressive or out of line, it was all over the news. Jeff Metcalf calls a black teenager a watermelon felon on a 3-hour live stream and announces that he made it specifically to go viral. Now it's crickets. Suddenly we practicing journalistic integrity and restraint. The silence is not neutral, y'all. That's a statement being made. And the statement is that racism is more tolerable, understandable, and excusable than the responses of black people who are simply saying that that was not okay. I see y'all, and I'm calling it out, and I'm going to keep calling it out until it's no longer necessary. Here is what I want you to walk away with today, okay? Because I did not make this video just to be angry on camera. I made this video because I think this moment matters beyond Jeff Metcalf, beyond this one live stream and this entire case. We are living in a time where people feel increasingly comfortable with public racism as long as they can dress it up in something sympathetic, as long as they can point to their pain as the justification and basically say, well, I lost something, so you got to give me this one. No, we ain't got to give you nothing. Because here's what happens when we let it go. We decide that his grief earns him a pass on watermelon felon. And then we decide you people is acceptable. We are teaching the next person that pain is a get out of racism free card. And there will always be a next person with a story sad enough to make the racism feel tolerable. We can't afford that. Not right now, not ever. Okay, so no, I'm not letting it go. I'm naming it. It was racist. He knew it was racist. And he said it because he racist. Okay, we can hold grief and accountability in the same hand without dropping either one because two things can be true. We just got to be brave enough to say it out loud. Okay, y'all, I said what I said and I meant every single word. I know the comments about to be on fire. Whew, child, and I am ready. I know y'all are coming in here with y'all feelings and y'all opinions and your arguments, and that is fine. The door is open for that. But if you want to debate me, I want you to come with something other than he was grieving. I already covered that, okay? Gonna go to hell. Now, if you made it to the end of this video, I need you to know that I appreciate you so much. You sat through all of this with me. And that means that you are my kind of people, the kind of people who are not afraid of a complicated conversation and people who don't need everything to be simple and clean and comfortable. Y'all are exactly who I make my content for. Now, you already know what I need, okay? Hit that like button, drop a comment, tell me where you stand. Do you think the media covered this live stream the same way they covered everything else in the case? Do you think grief excuses what he said? I mean, I genuinely do want the conversation. And if you are new here, welcome. I'm Geraldine Lake, aka Indescribable, and I make content like this because I think the truth matters, and I think we deserve spaces where we can have hard conversations without being told to calm down and stay in our lane, because I ain't calming down, okay? And this is absolutely my lane. So subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know every single time I upload, and I will catch you guys at the next video. Peace.